Hi everyone, today I will be showing you the different types of non-chord notes that were used in Western music through the Common Practice period, that is approximately from 1600s to the 1900s. So what's the deal with non-chord notes? I mean, you could just play chord notes and the music would sound perfectly fine, right? Imagine you have been invited to a concert of classical music where all non-chord notes are banned. You think, chord notes sounds perfectly fine by themselves, so what could go wrong? You decide to give it a shot. The concert begins with Furellis, which is supposed to sound like this. But now, with all the non-chord notes removed, it sounds something like this. You can't bear it beyond a few minutes and walk off. Such is the impact of non-chord notes. Okay, for sake of classification, let's divide them initially into the notes that occur on strong beats and the notes that occur on weak beats. They will be called as accented non-chord notes and unaccented non-chord notes. Let's look at unaccented non-chord notes first. Here is the opening of the famous minuet in G from Anna Magdalena Bach's notebook. Notice the chord is G major, having the notes G, B and D. Now the treble plays A and C, both of which are not part of the G major chord. These notes occur on the weaker beats when you compare them with G and B, which appear on the stronger beats. Also notice how the notes move. They all move in the same direction in seconds or steps. Such notes moving in the same direction in seconds or steps are called passing notes. Now let's assume that instead of moving in the same direction, the notes change direction and return back to the same note. Look at this example from the same music again. Here the chord being played is A major with the chord notes A, C sharp, E. B is the non-chord note. It changes direction and goes back to C sharp. Such notes that move a step and come back to the same note are called as auxiliary notes or neighbor tones. Further, these notes can be classified as upper or lower auxiliary notes, which, as the name suggests, are upper or lower than the chord note. In this minuet, it is the lower auxiliary note, as B is lower than C sharp. Here is an example from Diabelli Sonatina in F major. The left hand plays the C major chord with notes C, E and G, followed by G major chord with notes G, B, D. G here is the chord note and A is the upper auxiliary note. Here is an example where the G7 chord having notes G, B, D and F is followed by C major chord with notes C, E and G. The note C is a non-chord note, but it is neither passing nor auxiliary. It is almost as if it is anticipating the C in the next bar. Such a non-chord note which anticipates a note from the next chord is called as an anticipation note. Okay, so far we've been classifying only notes which are moving in seconds or steps. What about larger jumps? Look at this example of Chopin's etude in F minor. Here, the non-chord note B, although is in the same direction F to B and B to C, F to B is not a step. Hence, this is called as an incomplete passing note. Similarly, look at this example from Chopin's Nocturne in E flat major. The chord in the left hand is C7 with notes C, E, G and B flat. The right hand B is a non-chord note. Although it is changing direction like an auxiliary note, it is not moving in seconds. Such a note is called as an incomplete auxiliary note. A special type of incomplete auxiliary note arises when it falls down more than a second. Look at this example from Schumann's Traumerei. The left hand is playing G7 with notes G, B, D and F. E is the non-chord note which falls down to C in the next chord. The simple English word for this is an escape note, or if you want to be very academic, an échappé. Now that we have covered all the unaccented scenarios that occurred in the common practice period, let's look at the accented non-chord notes. The incomplete auxiliary note, the incomplete passing note, and the anticipation notes have a special name when they are accented, the appoggiatura. Okay, now what happens when the non-chord note is a tie? Here is the end of the development of the second movement of Beethoven's Opus 109 Sonata in E major. You see, the F sharp is part of the D sharp diminished 7th chord with chord notes D sharp, F sharp, A and C. The following measure is E minor with chord notes E, G and B. The F sharp is tied over to the next measure, which later falls down and resolves to E. The first half of the non-chord note is called preparation. The suspended part is called as the suspension, and the resolving chord note is called as the resolution. Such a non-chord note that is held as a tie from the previous chord and that resolves downwards is called a suspension. Now look at this example from the same sonata, this time from the third movement, which is in theme and variation format. Here is measure 10 and 11 from variation 5. The chord here is E major. The second chord is B7 with chord notes B, D sharp, F sharp and A. The E is held from the previous chord and resolves upwards to F sharp. Such an upward resolution is called as a retardation. Right, so far we've been seeing unaccented non-chord notes such as the passing notes that maintain the direction of movement, auxiliary notes that change the direction of movement, anticipation notes that anticipate chord notes from the next chord, incomplete passing notes and auxiliary notes that are the same as passing and auxiliary notes except that they are not moving in seconds or steps. From the accented notes category are again passing and auxiliary notes, this time on the strong beat, appoggiaturas for all other types of movements, and suspensions and retardations wherever tied non-chord notes are involved. Let's look at the opening of Diabelli Sonatine again. The opening chord is F major. B flat is the unaccented non-chord note and D is the accented chord note. When a non-chord note which is unaccented and accented occur consecutively, they are called changing notes. In the next example, we visit Chopin's Fourth Ballad. Here, the C stays constant throughout with various chords in the treble which do not contain the note C. Such a note that travels through chords that it is not contained in is called as a pedal note. Normally, it occurs in the bass and is usually the tonic or the dominant of the passage. In Chopin's Third Ballad, the pedal note is G sharp, which occurs on the top voice. In this case, it is called as an inverted pedal. Similarly, if the pedal note occurs in the inside voices, it is called as an internal pedal. Now, unfortunately, I could not find an example for internal pedal, so I made up this simple passage. If you have spotted an example of internal pedal, do let me know in the comments below and acknowledge you for your find in the subsequent video. So this covers all the different types of non-chord notes. Hope you all enjoyed learning from this video. Do like and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more such videos.